In this video, I'll show you how to make a side-by-side layout in the ATEM Mini for podcasts and interviews. Hi, I'm Aaron Parecki. So first thing, this tutorial will work for any of the ATEM Mini models, so it doesn't matter which one you have in order to use this. Follow along. If you have the ATEM Mini, the buttons on the top barely scratch the surface of what you can do with this thing. So the first thing you'll want to do is download the ATEM Software Control app, which will give you full control over all of the capabilities of this device. So in this tutorial, we'll be creating a side-by-side view of this camera next to a recording of myself that I'm playing on a loop. Let me show you the multi-view of my ATEM so you can see the two video sources we've got here. So here is my camera, and then next to me in input 2 is a recording I made a second ago, just playing on a loop of me staring into a different camera. In a real example, that second person would be a guest streaming to you via a streaming bridge or a Skype call or Zoom or something like that. However you want to get a remote video feed into your ATEM, it doesn't matter as long as you just make it full screen and that's your guest. Okay, so here we go. Let's dive into the ATEM software control interface. The first thing you'll want to do is set your own video as the active camera. So I'm just going to tap 1 in the software control app here. And now we want to get the second input sitting next to me. So not on program, but that's what we're going to use the upstream key for. So over in this palette section, go ahead and click on the upstream key to expand that, and then make sure this DVE tab is selected. This DVE tab is the same thing you'd use for a picture-in-picture effect, but as we'll see, the side-by-side view is actually kind of like a large picture-in-picture. So the important thing to choose here is the fill source. That's going to tell the ATEM which video source you want to use in this effect. So that's where I'm going to choose input 2, which is my guest's feed. Now, if you haven't done much else with the upstream key yet, it might be the default sort of small picture-in-picture in the corner. And if I bring it on air, you'll see that it is now playing that second input, kind of shrunken into the corner here, which is not at all what we want, but it only takes a few tweaks to turn that into what we're looking for. So again, to enable that, you press the on air button under next transition, or you actually can now use the on air button on the ATEM Mini itself. So first thing I'm going to do is fix the size. We're going to go ahead and type in 1 and press enter, and that's going to make this now full size, 100%. Now it's definitely not in the right spot, so we can see that by changing the X values and Y values, we can sort of move it around. This coordinate system doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's 32 wide by 18 tall, centered at 0, 0. Which means if I set the Y position to 0, it'll center it that direction. And if I set X to 16, for example, it'll position that halfway. Now that's not quite what we're going for. We actually want it to be less than halfway over. Other way, less than halfway over. So we're gonna actually set that to 8, and it's there. Now you can also do it on the other side by setting it to -8. So, okay, making progress. But again, we're not quite there yet because this is now covering up this whole part of the screen where I'm supposed to be sitting. And that's what the mask feature is for. So go ahead and turn on the mask, and now we can crop the left and right sides in order to shrink that. We're gonna go ahead and add 8 to the crop on both sides. And now we've cropped that video so that it's right down the middle. So we're very nearly done, but you might notice that this picture isn't actually looking so great, and that's because I'm getting cut in half by the guest. And that's where we reach the limits of the ATEM Mini. There's only one upstream keyer, so you can only position one of the video feeds off to the side. Your background layer can't change. So I'm sitting here in the background layer and there's no way to move this video over. So if I can't move the video over, instead what I can do is move myself. And this is a clever little hack you can do to get around the limit. You just set yourself over to the side, and it looks fine in this view. If I turn off the upstream key, you'll see I'm actually way over on the side of the frame, but once I bring the guest in, it actually looks totally fine. And this is exactly what we did when I did the joint live stream with PhotoJoseph, where I was streaming my full video to him over the streaming bridge, and then he was just sitting off to the side of his frame so that I was sitting there next to him on the picture. The very expensive ATEMs have a feature called Supersource, and that's what lets you do multiple scaled windows within one frame. I don't have one of those, it's very expensive, but that's where you get the ability to do the sort of news broadcaster style, multiple people up in a row. The next thing you'll want to do is record a macro that will recreate all the settings so that you don't have to sort of hope it stays. The easiest way to do this is once you have this all set up, you go record a macro and then recreate all the steps since they're already loaded into the interface. So watch as I go ahead and do this. I'm gonna go ahead and make a new macro here called side by side and hit record. Then what I'm going to do is go through all the settings I just set up and sort of reconfirm all of them. So I'm going to start by going to upstream key, make sure I switch over to DBE, choose input 2, just click into all these fields, press enter on all of them, enable the mask, set these positions. I'm just clicking and tapping enter, disable the shadow, disable the border. That sets it all up. Go ahead and press on air and hit done recording. Now to test that it worked, let me go ahead and change everything. I'm going to change to other inputs. I'm going to turn on the mask. I'm just going to mess all the settings up. Turn off the key, and when I tap side by side, it should now restore all my settings. There we go. Last thing I like to do is to actually go ahead and save this whole thing so that I can always get back to it later. I'm going to first go to File and click Save Startup State. That will bake all the settings into the ATEM so that if you take out the power and plug it back in, it'll come back just like this. And then I'll go File, Save As, and I'm just going to go ahead and type sidebyside.xml, save that. And that's going to save all of my ATEM settings into this XML file. That way I can restore the ATEM to this current state at any time. If I ever mess up all the settings in it or get a new ATEM, I can just pick up that file, restore it back into the ATEM software control, and all my settings and macros are ready to go. And there you have it. That is how to create a side-by-side layout in the ATEM Mini. I hope this was helpful. Leave a comment down below if you have any questions, and let me know what other kinds of tutorials you'd want to see on this channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.